Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Closing Bell on the Stock Movers Report. The companies making moves at the close of U.S. trading with Carol Massar, Tim Stenovec, Romaine Bostick, and Scarlet Fu.
S&P 500, 399 names gaining ground in today's session. A lot of the uptick towards the last 10, 15 minutes of trading. 102, Scarlet, to the downside, 2 unchanged.
Yeah, pretty lopsided advanced decline line, and you see that reflected in the IMAP as well. This is 11 sectors in the S&P 500, and only one sector finishing in the red, one of the smaller sectors, and that is energy. In fact, you have 22 out of the 23 big cap energy names losing ground. Kinder Morgan was the only one to buck the decline.
All right, fascinating. A lot of green there. Tesla, definitely an outperformer. Number one gainer, folks, in the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100. That stock up about 8.25% in today's session. Biggest intraday rise since late April. The company coming out, launching its much anticipated and long promised driverless taxi service to some riders on Sunday. Analysts highlighting the low-key and limited nature of the rollout of the service in Austin, Texas. The debut was quote unquote, largely uneventful, which is always good, free of major missteps, with the start of revenue service making a critical milestone, for bulls in the stock. And they definitely moved into it in a big way. Northern Trust, want to point out that one, up about 8% in today's session. Shares rallying initially after the Wall Street Journal came out earlier today and reported that Bank of New York Mellon had approached the company in recent days on a possible merger. So if indeed we see some kind of tie-up between these two, you're talking about two of the largest custodian banks in the world, with a combined entity scale that would help it compete with global asset managers like BlackRock and Vanguard. So we'll be keeping our eye on that one. And then I had to throw in Circle Internet. I mean, why not? Up another 9.6% at its highs. It had rallied 24% today, gaining almost 10% in today's session. So we're talking about a $65 billion market cap company, up about 90% or so in the past 3 trading days, and it's up more than 800% since its IPO on June 5th. So, yeah, there you go, Circle.
Hey, by the way, we're going to have the Circle co-founder, Sean Neville, on the program a little bit later.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
Good booking.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some of the decliners today. Hims & Hers Health fell more than 34% today. It was the most intraday ever. This after Novo Nordisk scrapped its partnership with Hims & Hers. It has been selling compounded obesity drugs on marketing concerns. Novo Nordisk said Hims was, quote, using deceptive marketing to sell copycat versions of its obesity blockbuster Wegovy. Hims CEO Andrew Dudum on X called Novo executive comments, quote, misleading. He said Novo had been pressuring Hims to steer patients to Wegovy, regardless of whether it was clinically best for patients. He said, quote, we refuse to be strong-armed, and that Hims will continue to offer a wide range of treatments. Interestingly enough, we saw Novo down 5.5%.
I'm absolutely fascinated by this story because, it does seem like the perfect marriage, right? I mean, you talk about this idea of people wanting better access to the drugs they want, not necessarily having to go through the traditional doctor process. And, of course, Novo and other drug companies wanting more of a direct line to their consumers. The fact that, something went on behind the scenes that either Novo wasn't happy with or maybe it was Hims & Hers wasn't happy with, I think says a lot. And it makes you wonder about what these partnerships might look like in the future, if at all.
I think it also says a lot that the fact that Novo ADRs fell, more than 5% as a result of this too. Obviously, investors thought it was a good way for the company to get this medication into more hands. So, again, we'll see what those partnerships do look like in the future. Moving on to Supermicro Computer. Shares fell 9.8%. This after the company said it plans to offer $2 billion in convertible senior notes due in 2030. The company plans to use the proceeds to repurchase shares as well as fund growth and business expansion. This according to an announcement earlier today. And finally, ADRs of Compass Pathways. This is a psychedelic drug company. This is a medication company, a pharmaceutical company, we should note. It's based in the UK.
Are you on psychedelic drugs right now?
It sounds like I am, right?
Just kidding.
Down 49%. It's supposed to treat a form of depression, but the trial disappointed investors. The company said its psilocybin drug reduced depression symptoms by 3.6% on a rating scale compared to a placebo. but Wall Street wanted to see better results. The study saw 258 adults for a change in their symptoms at 6 weeks. This according to a statement from Compass today. Once again, shares down 49% ADRs.
Oof, biotech special right there.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's get to the bond market here. So really interesting action. Buying across the curve, particularly in the front end, yields down 6 basis points. But the journey was really interesting. So off the bat, you had Michelle Bowman of the Fed speaking around 10 o'clock this morning, talking about if inflation kept coming down, a July cut could be in the cards. She also talked about the supplemental leverage ratio, that maybe the Fed will be discussing that on Wednesday. That would reduce potentially the amount of money that banks need to hold to account for risk. Right now, that risk involves treasuries, which, as we know, should be a risk-free asset. And if they can make that the case and not have to hold money against treasuries, then maybe they can actually buy more and have more money to free up loans. So that all kind of playing out within the treasury market. Clearly, we marked the bottom, though, as we started to get these headlines out of President Trump about potentially moving towards peace.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.